My wife's mother has inserted herself into our intimate life. My wife and I have been romantically involved for 7 years and married for the last 5 years. My wife and her mother are very close. My wife's father passed away when she was young and it has just been the two of them for the past 20 plus years. It was actually really nice when my wife and I started dating. I inherited this amazing mother figure as I never had parents myself, and we have all become very close over the past 7 years. My mother-in-law is very kind, loving and open. However, she can be a bit weird or quirky at times. She frequently asks about our intimacy life, about when we are going to give her grandchildren, and sometimes asks me if her daughter is satisfying me in bed. My wife dismisses those questions as the typical sort of questions that Asian parents ask, but in my opinion there is more to it. There are 2 other stories that stand out to me as even more strange. One day about 4 years ago when my wife and her mother out shopping, her mom suggested getting honker implants together. My wife laughed it off, but her mom was apparently very serious and insisted she would pay for them both. My wife turned down the offer, but then about a month later, her mother had suddenly gone through with it and now had a pair of milkers. Another strange example is how my mother-in-law took a tour trip to Thailand recently. She came back happily bragging that she went to a brothel while there. Not that she just walked by one or went inside one, but that she was a paying customer at one. My wife usually brushes off this behavior as if it was normal, but sometimes we acknowledge the absurdity and laugh at it together. However, my wife has a very difficult time saying no to her mother. As in she cannot do it. In the entire time I have known her, I have never once seen my wife stand her ground. My wife has tried saying no to her a few times, but as her mother pressures her she inevitably caves in too. Her mother's wishes. One example is from early last year when my mother-in-law wanted us to buy a new car. Not that she wanted us to buy her a car, which I offered to do, but that my wife and I had to buy a new car. We both agreed that we did not need a new car and that it wasn't her mother's decision to make. After several days of back and forth, we ended up buying ourselves a new car. I still don't understand why that was necessary, but we have a car payment again because of it. We have even tried me being the bad guy when this happens, and saying I was the one who didn't want to do something, but in every case, my wife eventually gives in and goes to her mother's side, even when she really doesn't want to do something. This topic is one of the few topics that we regularly argue about, although not very frequently. So on Friday night, the most bizarre thing yet happened. My wife and I often sync up the end of our commutes home from work, so that we can drive home together. We managed to get on the same train as usual Friday, and drove home together. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary as we drove home, but we were both surprised to see her mother's car in the driveway when we arrived home. We went inside expecting to be greeted by her mom, but everything was quiet. No one appeared to be in the house. We looked around a bit and my wife tried texting her mother to see what was up. While we waited for a response we decided to change out of our work clothes and into what we normally wear around the house. When I entered our bedroom, I was shocked to see her mother sitting on our bed in nothing but a towel. I turned around, looking back at my wife and trying to give her mother some privacy. Her mother spoke, but not in English. My wife stopped me with her hands up in front of her while she leaned around me to look at her mother. They continued not talking in English, which is extremely rare for them to do in front of me, and I continued to look at the floor with my back to her mother. My wife looked at me, said something like it's okay and slowly directed me backwards towards the bed. When I was closer to the bed, my wife gently shoved me onto the bed. I looked away from her mother, still trying to be polite despite being very confused as to what was